Beauty Pageant is the third episode of the second season of Parks and Rec, and as always there will be spoilers as I go through the episode, but I'm looking at my notes and I don't have that many notes, so I will talk about what happens, but I don't really have any in-depth thoughts with this one. And that's not necessarily because it's a bad episode. I didn't find it boring. I actually thought it was quite a pleasant watch, but the actual events themselves were maybe not that interesting. Leslie is judging the Miss Pony beauty pageant, and I will say the pacing is really good. I'd say probably over half of the episode actually takes place at the pageant. I think it worked really well. The pacing of the pageant was good, and we also have a good mix of contestants as well. But the actual specific events at the pageant, I didn't really care for that much. April actually signs up to the pageant, which was quite interesting, and then Tom becomes a judge as well, which I thought was a nice idea. That worked out well. He and Leslie definitely have different expectations for what they're looking for in the pageant and in the contestants, which helped make it a bit more interesting, but I'm really using the word interesting there quite loosely because I just didn't think it was that fascinating. The most interesting part, and this is of course a spoiler, is the bit when April decided to quit. And even then, that wasn't as dramatic as it could have been. So it definitely wasn't eventful. But I do think the pacing was quite good nonetheless. And we did have some interesting contestants. Again, I'm using that word interesting. And I guess I mean mildly fascinating. There is a pianist. One of the contestants plays piano rather beautifully. That was quite nice to listen to. The costumes are certainly very interesting as well. The costumes were interesting. I do mean that one. I do think they look quite good. But for me, the highlight, and there is another aspect to the episode I'll talk about in a moment, but for me the highlight is the character of Dave. Dave is the officer we met in either the previous episode or the one before that, where Tom got arrested and Leslie meets this officer, and actually he's asking Leslie out for coffee on a couple of occasions, and he makes a real effort to take an interest in what she's interested in, and he seems really sweet. So I haven't looked ahead, but I hope that character sticks around. I really liked him in this. He brought something rather sweet to the episode, so that definitely worked well. And the other part is focusing on Andy and also Anne and Mark. And as I've mentioned before, I don't really care about Anne or Mark as characters, and I care probably even less about them as a potential couple. So I'm not interested, at this stage at least. It might change, but at the moment, I'm not really interested in seeing where their relationship ends up because I just don't care. Interestingly though, for me, I think I might overuse that word. I need to get some new adjectives, but for me, in the first season, Andy was so annoying. And actually, I quite like him in the second season. And I find the character to be quite fascinating, and I'm keen to see what they do with his character. In this episode, he is sleeping in a tent in the pit. It is slightly creepy that he's sleeping in a tent outside Anne's house, but I feel like he's probably more just found an ideal location. Maybe ideal isn't the best word there, but he's found a suitable location to pitch a tent, and he goes into Anne's house, and Mark is there. And he says a few things that are maybe not very acceptable, but he's not very happy with the situation, understandably, I guess. And it's raining. And it's raining so heavily, and it just very rarely rains in sitcoms. And if it does, we don't really get to spend any time in it. Obviously, the rain is there because Andy is in the pit, and it's supposed to make his situation look worse, and I think they did a good job of that. But I love the rain, and I loved seeing it in this episode. So there were some things in this that I liked. I am surprised by my change of opinion towards the character of Andy. If my opinion changes again, it wouldn't surprise me. I don't really know what they're going to do with the character. I'm keen to find out. Also keen to find out if and what happens with the character of Dave. It's not unusual for sitcoms to bring in a romantic interest. They're there for a few episodes and they leave again. So if we don't see that much of him going forward, I wouldn't be surprised. But I think I'd be a little bit disappointed. We'll see what happens there, and as I said, I don't care about Anne and Mark. I couldn't care less. Maybe that will change, but for now, really not that bothered. Beauty Pageant was an okay episode. Honestly, everything worked. The pacing was good, the contestants were fine, the subplots all worked well. So there's nothing wrong with it. It's not a personal favourite episode, but there were definitely some good moments in there as well.